Hold on, I'm muting.
Yes. Are you ready, Shirley? We're still getting some. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'd like to call to order the Rapid City Area Schools Board of Education. I'm hearing an echo. Is it? Okay. Just go on. Oh. All right.
Troy Carr.
Wait a minute, Shirley.
Okay, I thought you wanted me to go on, sorry.
Slow down. Take two.
Take two.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Rapid City Area Schools Board of Education regular meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order with our roll call.
Troy Carr.
Here.
Jamie Clapham. Here. Christine Stephenson. Here. Deb Baker. Here. Michael Berkland.
Here.
Walt Swan.
Here.
Kate Thomas. Present. Samuel Blickensderfer.
Here.
Jace Jandrew.
Here. All right, at this time, we'll call for our invocation.
Pastor Randy Phipps from Midtown Church, and what a joy it is, once again, as we count every day, and the opportunities we have, the responsibilities we have. And I look and I see here tonight different opinions, different backgrounds, different styles. Yet this one thing we have in common, we want what's best for the children and for the parents, I believe. So I want to pray a blessing over the opportunity we have, the obligations, every decision that's made. Because not only do you have an opinion, you also have been given authority. So Lord, thank you for these people here tonight, representing the Rapid City School District, for administrative staff, for superintendents, this school board, Lord God, I pray they'd have wisdom in making right decisions, of exercising discernment, knowing that what's done here today, tonight, we would experience the blessing of that today, tonight, tomorrow, the weeks, months, years, generations to come of children in Rapid City. Thank you for everything being done, decency and order, and with a praise to you, Jesus, pray.
Thank you. I'd like to invite everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I make a motion for the proposed agenda, I'd just like to make two comments. One, I just want to remind board members that if any of you have an issue, you are totally free to add an agenda item to the agenda. So I just want to remind us that that is a liberty that you all have in the agenda. The other thing that I would just like to remind that when an item is placed on a agenda, it is not a final act. It is placed on the agenda so that the 7 board members can have a discussion. And so I just want to make that clear to the 7 of us and to those that are in the community that something on the agenda is not an official action or act until the 7 of us vote the items up or down. Okay, with that being said, I will entertain a motion for the proposed agenda.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. All right, thank you very much. At this time, Superintendent Swaggart is coming with the sharing the success.
Thank you, President Carr and board. My favorite part of the night. Tonight, we have a couple of really great things to celebrate. We're going to start tonight with college career and technical education month. I have a proclamation. That is, the department is kind of led. It is under the Director of Teaching, Learning, and Innovation, which is Director Seals, and our manager is Bobby Jo Donovan. And she brought with her Mr. James from Stevens High School. He is our academic coordinator. Didn't have that name down. Well, it is CTE month, and that's a really exciting month. Lots of great things are happening in February, but we do want to draw attention to this one in particular. Whereas February, extra day this year, 1st through the 29th of 2024 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education. And whereas the Career and Technical Education offers students the opportunity to gain the academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness, whereas our 56 CTE teachers provide our secondary students authentic, meaningful experiences which improve the quality of their education and increase their engagement and achievement. And whereas our 3 middle school career and technical education programs provide students with career exploration opportunities, which enable them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their future high school coursework and is foundational in the Rapid City Area Schools pathways. And whereas our Rapid City Area Schools 10 high school career and technical education programs of study and capstone experiences, which link the post-secondary training, industry recognized credentials, and 2- and 4-year college degrees. And whereas the leaders from business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to addressing the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with the available careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields, including healthcare, energy, advanced manufacturing, cybersecurity, education, finance, accounting, construction, and technical trades. And whereas the career and technical education programs ensure that employers have access to a qualified and thriving workforce, ensuring Rapid City and the Black Hills region is a strong and competitive economy I, therefore, Nicole Swigert, do hereby declare February in Rapid City Area Schools as Career Technical Education Month. Be so kind as to take a picture with me. Thank you. Yes. Bobby, did you want to? So I do want to share something really exciting. Last Friday, the legislature House did pass it's the first hurdle, right? It's always one hurdle in legislature, but they did pass the opportunity, hopefully, for CTE instructors to get one-year certifications. And that would allow us to bring professionals with hours in the careers in the community into our schools. And that is a first big hurdle. So I'm very hopeful that that will pass the whole House and then move on to the Senate. So that is exciting. Our second thing to be recognized tonight, and this is much more important than me because this one is signed by the governor. I would like to recognize that the state of South Dakota and the office of the governor has proclaimed that it is School Counseling Week in South Dakota. Whereas school counselors are employed in schools to help students reach their full potential, and whereas school counselors are committed to helping students explore their abilities, strengths, interests, and talents as these traits relate to career awareness and development, and whereas school counselors partner with parents to further the educational and personal growth of their children, and whereas school counselors school counselors work with teachers and other educators to help students succeed in school and set realistic goals for themselves. And whereas school counselors identify and utilize community resources that enhance and complement comprehensive school counseling programs to assist students in becoming productive members of society. And whereas comprehensive school counseling programs are considered to be an integral part of the educational process, therefore, she, Kristi Noem, Governor of the state of South Dakota, hereby proclaims the week of February 5th as School Counseling Week in South Dakota. And this is signed officially. School counseling is also overseen by the Teaching, Learning, and Innovation Department, and we have some of our wonderful counselors here. We have the two department lead counselors here, Jessica Dial from East, Kathy from General Beetle, Wilson and Central. Oh my God, A+, yay.
May I say something before you ladies leave? As a pastor, I have the unique opportunity to hear stories of people's lives. And so I want to commend you that as you all are doing your counseling roles, you hear so many different stories. And one of the things that people don't realize is you don't leave those stories at school, and they don't just erase after your session. You end up sometimes having to take those stories home. So thank you so much for the courage and the strength to listen to the stories, to try to help when you can. And that's the other thing. Sometimes you can't always help and you don't always have the answers. So thank you for all the work that you do in listening to the stories of our students. Thank you. All right. At this time, we're going to have our student representative reports from Stevens High School, Mr. Blinkensderfer.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are enjoying the beginning of February, the new month. And to start off this week's report, next week on February 14th, there will be a job fair in the Science Link at Stevens. Employers from over 40 different locations will be meeting with students about summer job opportunities. Also next week, the competitive open gym will be on the 10th. This is for students grades 6th through 11th and for anybody who is interested in doing competitive cheer next year. Looking ahead into March, track signups are only 3 weeks away. So tons of students are gearing up for a great season. And in addition to signing up for track, the next college signing day will be tomorrow, February 7th. Now, 5 students at Stevens qualified for the U.S. Presidential Scholars Program, and this was done through an application process. We are still waiting for the results of these applications, but we are anticipating to see who is selected. Now, 1 week ago today, 33 students from Stevens attended an engineering camp at the School of Mines. In addition to the field trip to the School of Mines, 130 students attended the WDT Scrub Camp. As many of you all know, this year, Stevens also started the Stevens SLAC Student Leadership Advisory Council that meets every month. Now, to complement this, the Activities Administration has started the new SALT program, which stands for the Student Athletic Leadership Team. They will be reading Row the Boat by John Gordon, and this book follows the themes of energizing life, sacrificing yourself, and leading an extraordinary legacy. Now, to wrap off this week's board report, we have our teacher spotlight. Now, since basketball season is coming to an end at the end of February, I thought it would be most suitable to feature Mr. Seth Keene as this week's teacher spotlight. Mr. Keene has been teaching at Stevens for 12 years now. He has previously taught at St. Thomas More, Jefferson, and Central, but he finds Stevens High School is his home. He was honored to get an interview at Stevens 12 years ago, and we are so blessed to have him as an algebra, stats, and AP stats teacher. His philosophy on teaching is to see how math translates to the real world. Now, alongside teaching math, he also teaches high school basketball for the freshmen. Not everybody enjoys math, but those who go out for basketball are there because they are passionate about the sport. He enjoys teaching these students about something that they already love. And lastly, he is also the founder and developer of Raider Park right next to our school, which is pretty awesome. That park has been expanding a lot the last years, and it's such a fun place to be. So Stevens is so blessed to have Mr. Keene as a teacher, and he truly does make Stevens a brighter place. Now, once again, thank you all for listening to this week's report. And there's nothing greater than a Raider. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Mr. Blickensderfer, so the job fair, what time is that?
I'm unsure what time it is. I believe it is going to be, usually the job fairs are 3rd and 4th hour around lunchtime, because that's when we have most kids passing through the hall. But I can check to see what time that is and email you back, so.
I will, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? All right, Mr. Jandrew, Central High School.
Yep, this is Jace Andrew. It's been a while since the last one, but we're back. So I'll be reporting for Central today. We have a lot happening soon for our seniors who are getting closer to graduation each day. They currently have been sending in their quotes and senior photos to the yearbook. Seniors and guardians who are looking for help completing their FAFSA are invited to attend WDT Free Complete Your 2024-25 FAFSA event on Monday, February 12th from 4 to 6 p.m. at Western Dakota Tech. Coming up 1 month from today, Central will host their Testapalooza. This will have freshmen and sophomores taking the pre-ACT and juniors taking their ACT. Classes will be dismissed once testing is over. To speak about academics, we also must mention our library. This year, our library has remained staffed in both the morning and afternoon for additional school and homework help. Our after-school tutoring program, which has partnered with the School of Mines, has continued to provide tutoring to many students this year. We also have several clubs in our library after school, and our library has started a gardening system, and we are proud of that space. Our theater department just got back from the State One Act Festival, which they played on the 20th consecutive Superior Show Award, or they received their 20th consecutive award. This marks 2 decades of Central bringing excellent One Acts to State Festival. Beyond the Superior Show Award, students Audrey Pearl and Rowan Hibbard won Superior Individual Acting Awards, Best in the Hodricks, and the Lords and Ladies 2 Superior Assemblies Awards. The entire tech crew won a Superior in Technical Design, and student Amelie Wilcox won a Superior Design Award for marketing. Finally, our English teacher and technical director, Mr. Lohr, or Joey Lohr, received the South Dakota Theater Teacher of the Year Award. Our sports teams have been pretty busy this February with basketball games and wrestling matches. At our most recent wrestling match, we recently honored our 7 graduating senior wrestlers, and Mr. Lohr was not the only Central faculty member to be recognized at the state level this month. South Dakota Football Coach Association just honored our new coach, Brandon Colpitz, this year's Callan DeBoer Unsung Coach of the Year. Finally, one of our senior students at Central, Leela Crosswhite, is working with Rapid City Youth Council to put on an art auction to erase student lunch debt. Students will be donating their art to go up for sale at the Dolls Fine Art Center. We'll be hosting the art auction on February 24th. This is a great opportunity to purchase new art for an important cause. And it's a good day to be cobbler.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question. I was gonna ask for a favor. I'm very excited about the summer camps at the School of Mines, and Rapid City Area Schools is paying for kids to take these summer camps. And I've talked to quite a few people who have no idea. Are you two aware that you can take STEM summer camps at the School of Mines for free?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, these are like biomedical engineering, rocket science, and they're week-long camps. They're all summer long, and RCS kids get to go for free. So they're $300 camps. So if you could find a way to share that around your school, I
Is that
think
the
that'd be
first year?
wonderful. We should be packing these camps.
Is that the first year that they're free?
I don't know.
Because
It's the first year I've had a kid who could go, so it's maybe the first year I was aware of it,
Yeah, I've heard of them before, but I don't remember them being free. So yeah, we'll spread the news.
Yeah. because I think they'd be a good thing. Thanks.
All right, anyone else? All right, I have not received any sheets for persons wishing to address the board, which means there's no board response to open forum. At this time, we're on item 9, Superintendent Swiggert's report.
I must get more than 5 minutes then.
Yeah.
Good evening, board. January has 5 weeks, so it always feels like it's a really long time between meetings when we have those months. So I have not reported since January 16th, so that I have a lot to cover, but I'll try to go fast. In the strategic planning update, the February event for the staff pillar is going to be the 100-year celebration. Once again, that is this Saturday from 9 a.m. till sometime after 2. The movies will be shown between 9 and 2, and at 2 o'clock, the Teacher of the Year, the awards for the movies. There's currently on the 100-year Facebook page, you can watch all of the different schools' videos. There is a People's Choice Award. So we are encouraging people to watch those videos on Facebook and vote. Also, you can vote there. There will be judges. I know some of our board members are serving as judges. The announcements for the winners will be made, and then the Teacher of the Year announcement will be made. For our staff, any staff that attend, Bobby and I will be there manning a table and signing up for gift cards. So that is our staff appreciation event. We're super excited about it. I'm sure that Sarah is probably somewhere working on this project. I do not know what she's going to do on Sunday, because I think she has lived this project for the last year. Just for your information, I know this board has been very concerned and wanting updates. Canyon Lake Elementary staff, everybody was interviewed by Mr. Manuel and Dr. Strasser. And then last week about their preferences, what they wanted to teach. And Dr. Strasser went through seniority and a few other things. And last week, Dr. Strasser met with every staff member that was available and presented assignments. So that process has occurred. Staff members do have until February 15th to accept or decline those placement assignments. For the communication pillar, I thought I would share, because I'm not sure that everybody on the board is aware that I serve on 3 boards outside of this one. This one I just get to come and report at, but I'm actually on the board of Elevate. I'm on the board of the Monument facility, the old Civic Center. And those 2 boards are very interesting to serve on. One of the things I love about the Elevate board is we always get an update about home prices and things like that. And that's kind of interesting, sometimes depressing. But But they also talk about future businesses that are being courted and brought in and are showing some interest in the area. And it's always very interesting to hear about that. They do a very nice job of having all of the different areas report out. And the monument, this last meeting was incredibly interesting because it was the meeting that happened right before the stock show was starting. So as you go through the approval of the bills and all of the products they're bringing in for the stock show, that is very interesting, hearing about ticket sales, pre-ticket sales in previous years and all of that information. So I'm excited for the February meeting to hear if they broke records. The weather was amazing this year. And so I suspect that the numbers were going to be very high. We have a great partnership with the monument. Of course, we hold lots of different school events. As we are moving through February, we are entering March. March is Music in Our School. We have a whole bunch of different concerts and performances for that in March. We also have the state tournaments, basketball. I think we have 2 basketball tournaments this year and state wrestling. So lots of school events happen there as well. And I'm very thankful to be invited on that board. Facilities, I usually let Coy talk about that. Coy is not here today, but I will tell you that regular tours of South are going on for different, the staff is getting to tour, and I know most of us have gone through the tours. Every time you walk through that building, big changes are happening. And we're getting so much closer to that work that is going to be completed. I will have a little report down a little bit later about that. As far as the community, just a couple of meetings that I do participate in that are school related, but also very much community related. The PAC meeting, that we encourage all parents to attend. It is connected through the Title VI Indian Education Office, but we always serve a meal. It's a great experience to learn something about the district. Every single month is presented, but also opportunity for parents to have a voice in education. So encourage people to attend. And just 2 Fridays ago, we had the big teammates celebration luncheon. Many board members were there as well. That celebrated the mentors. To see some of the pictures of the mentors and the mentees was very, very moving. We're at about 50 some mentor mentees and growing. We're expanding. I do know that we are in need right now of male mentors. We have quite a few young men, young boys that are looking for a mentor to be matched with. So we're encouraging people in our community to sign up. It is a half an hour a week. And listening to the mentors at the table that I sat with talk about spending time with their mentees, it was just really heartwarming, and I'm very appreciative. I'd kind of like to have a mentor lunch every month to hear, because it was great. As far as a school update, I did want to let the board know that South Middle School did invite parents and students in for some presentations on their outside the walls learning. I know the board has been contacted a few times this year and even last year about our plan to close South Middle School, the old building, 4 weeks early. So the last Friday in April, and learn outside the walls for those last 4 weeks. That is after our state testing has been completed. We have spent time, the principal there has spent a lot of time talking to the staff members about completing their big must-know learning activities. Darren Schmidt and Jeannie have gone to extremes with their staff to make plans for projects and field trips, learning experiences that I think it was quite concerning to parents to think that for 4 weeks students wouldn't have school. But in all actuality, they're going to have school activities all but something like 8 or 10 days of that. They're going to have opportunities. Track is still going to be going on. Meals are still going to be available to be picked up. So that school is still going to function. And one of the greatest things I've noticed about South this year is that student body is so invested in being ready for that new building, being students of that new fantastic space. That I just think that next year when we have that ribbon cutting ceremony and we welcome students into that space, Rapid City is just going to be so proud. I'm already very, very impressed and proud of South and the work that they're doing on that plan. Boundary letters have been sent out for all the students impacted by the boundary changes. And with that came the grandfather documents. Those have been being received. They're going through that process. Kara and Sharon are, it is not an easy thing. It takes time, but we're trying to let people know that they've been received. And so if you're getting inquiries about that, I know that I have been. Title I from the state, we had two state representatives from DOE and come in and interview us about the Title I programs district-wide. That was, although it wasn't an official audit, it kind of felt like one and a little bit stressful to have that going on. But I will tell you that my one-on-two interview, because there was two of them from the state, they were incredibly impressed with what we have happening in Rapid City area schools. Just today, I was printing out the numbers to look at, and it looks like a couple schools this year were on the cusp of not qualifying, but it looks like everybody has reached that 35% that is currently receiving title funds. Of course, Canyon Lake is a current school, so that money will be then now distributed to the current buildings. And if we notice any changes from redistributing the students from Canyon Lake to other schools, we may have future title discussions to move forward. I know that Jennifer Strong has been meeting with the Title I principals to create the school improvement plans in a much more streamlined, just what the state needs, which I think the staff member spent 2 nights with her a couple weeks ago developing those plans, and it's really drilled down into exactly what we need to focus on instead of a lot of extras. And I think our schools are really appreciating that fact that the state is working with us and letting us just focus on where we need to focus our energy on the Title I plan. Coy and I have presented twice since I've seen you the last time. We drove to Pierre on a day we should not have driven to Pierre. And we presented to all the legislators in the House and the Senate that wanted to come and listen to us speak about the funding formula. We were partnered up with Dr. Lowry from T. She presented kind of an overarching view, and then Coy and I really presented the Rapid City area school story. And what we heard from the legislators after we presented was it was nice to see that contrast, because South Dakota has 148 school districts and every school district has their own story. But our story is right now fairly unique. And if we don't tell it, nobody's aware of it. Other things happening. As you know, we did make a last minute change yesterday to the board agenda. There was some concern, and I would say a lot of talk in the community about what Coy and I were doing, putting on the agenda a bond calendar decision. I did want to talk to the board about what we were trying to get done. Was we were trying to allow a conversation to happen with the county auditor's office about the bond election scheduling. We're trying to be far more transparent this year with the community by talking about things in open board meeting, and we wanted to have that discussion in the board meeting so that Coy and I could have that discussion with the auditor's office. We have put that off. We are going to have a study session next week that is going to talk about some bond issues and maybe drill down into how that is going to look moving forward. It's one of those things, I don't know if the cart was before the horse or the horse was in the wrong spot, but it's interesting on how these things from the other side of the table, I guess, work out and all the moving pieces and when to have conversations about what. So I did want to apologize for making a late change to the board agenda. Last week, you have a long list of all the things I did last week. It was a great week, a hard week to be gone. But last week I traveled to Pierre, Brandon Valley, Harrisburg, and Sioux Falls. I attended a delegate assembly and got to share with how different House bills and Senate bills impact Rapid City area schools. I got to hold up a card, red, we oppose this, Rapid City would oppose this, green, we would vote, we want this to go forward, we want to advocate for this, or we just yellow, we just kind of want to watch it, it really doesn't impact us. And that was the first time I'd been invited to participate in that superintendent delegate assembly, and I was thankful that I was there and got to talk to superintendents about that. I was there, happened to be there when Governor Nome presented her joint address to the House and the Senate. And typically when I'm in Pierre, I get to see the House or the Senate, but not both. I'd never seen a joint assembly, and that was very interesting to be a part of. I will tell you this, there is not enough visitor or observing space in the Capitol, and I went up and down those stairs a few times that day, and the Capitol has a lot of stairs. I will just say that. The Administrator of the Year banquet was held. There is a number of ways that we could submit names from our school district. There's an elementary principal of the year, middle school principal of the year, high school principal of the year. There's a business manager of the year. There's a special ed director of the year. There's a curriculum director of the year. There's a superintendent of the year. And I just don't know. I think it's been a while since Rapid City has put some names in there. So I'm gonna work with Dr. Strasser and make sure that happens. I attended a large school district meeting. It's always good to get all the large schools in the same room, although I know I've told you before that in South Dakota, school districts of 500 students and larger are considered a large school district. And obviously there is a very big difference between 500 students and 12,000 students for Rapid City and 19,000 students for Sioux Falls. So there's a big gap there. But it's nice to have those conversations in the same room. We had a legislative lobbying gathering, and I was able to invite all of our representatives. And this year, for the first time, they kind of let us pick our space. And so usually we were sitting at a table that was ours, like this was our area, our districts. This year, they kind of let us sit where we wanted, and I actually liked it a lot better because I got to talk to representatives on different committees, the House Education Committee, the Senate, got to talk to them, and they approached me and had questions about Rapid City. So it was, I thought, a much better approach to that lobbying time than we've had in the past. After I was in Pierre, I decided, well, I'm close to Sioux Falls, right? So I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and drove to Brandon Valley because Central High School performed their one acts at 9. And it's a 3.5-hour drive. I made it in time. Central did an amazing job. Then Bishop Carr and I Zoomed in the parking lot, and then I went back in and watched the Stevens performance. Both schools received superiors. And I don't know if you are all aware, but I was a theater director at Stevens High School. And when I took a one act to state, we also got a superior. So it is quite, especially when you perform on a Thursday, you don't find out your results until Saturday, late afternoon. So it is a very long wait to find out who got a superior. I love how the Fine Arts Festival works because they look at things like tech and they look at the posters that advertised, and all of those people who are usually behind the scenes also get opportunities to shine and be recognized. So I encourage you, if you ever get a chance, to attend that one act festival. I toured the 9th grade academy in Harrisburg. It opened this year. It is an incredible building, and I felt very lucky to get to see it. it will eventually become their second high school, and it was definitely built with that in mind. But one of the things that it taught me is that you can create a building that can expand in the future. And I know that like South, we talked about it could go up. But what I loved about the buildings, I toured both Jefferson and the ninth grade academy in Harrisburg, and they're built to spread out, not up. So building could be happening while school is going on. And I would just encourage us to talk to architects about that when we move on. I then testified for the House Ed bill, House Ed Committee on Bill 1134, which was the bill to average student membership. It was a tough audience. It was if you get a chance to listen to that, I was mostly disappointed in the people who came out as opponents about it, because I really felt that they were not seeing our story, which is what I was trying to get across to the legislators, which is we have to turn in our count day December 1st. We turned it in December 1st of 2023 for the last Friday in September. That money, that amount of money that is based off of that count that we turned in, that is what they start paying us for July 1st. If we are wrong, we have to pay them back any money that was wrong. And our next half of the year, we get the less money. So it's kind of like a double whammy. We were trying to ask them to, well, the bill said it would average 3 years membership or give you the growth, whichever was higher. There was a bunch of pushback about paying for ghost students and taking money away from other districts, but that's not at all how this bill would have worked. And so I was a little sad that you don't get to, only the person who brings the bill forward gets to have a rebuttal conversation. So I'm appreciative of Cameron Nelson, the representative out of Sioux Falls, who actually brought that bill forward. And I loved what he said, because he said, no, this is not affecting Sioux Falls right now, but it could be next year. And he is right. And I tried to explain how only 2 school districts, West River, gained students this year. So it was disheartening not to be heard at that meeting, but I'm thankful for being given the opportunity and being respected enough to be allowed to speak. Coy and I both spoke. I toured Jefferson High School, which is the newest high school in Sioux Falls. That I just could tell you some really interesting choices they made in that building, but it's a super safe feeling building. And that's what I would want our community to know, is when you are building new buildings you can keep safety in mind. So when they have a lockdown, every single wing is 100% secure. And there's all these wings off that have just a few classrooms. And it is, you just feel you just know you were safe. And each of those wings then have exits off the back of those wings. So if an event was happening someplace else in the building, how Alice works, you could get out and you could go someplace. And we do not have that. And we don't have that because the majority of our buildings were built before school safety was ever even a concern. And so it is a significant thing to consider when we talk about new structures. I also spent some time with the Sioux Falls superintendent. It's nice to have a one-on-one conversation with the other leader of a big school district. We have many of the same situations happening, and yet also some very different situations. I was able to walk around and see some, they had brought some teachers in to do work in their RCEC. It's called something else there, but just seeing their teachers on a Friday afternoon, really getting down into really strong work about curriculum. I know our teachers do the same, but it was nice to see it there. And then on Saturday, I attended a special education law class. The book has been great, lots of good reading. I was telling Todd and Kira earlier today that if there's one thing I could change about how we educate educators, it would be everybody needs more special ed, more classes on special ed, because every educator will have students on IEPs in their classroom, and we just do not prepare enough for that. So that's my takeaway. As far as the directors, SPED has a presentation coming up later. WDT is offering more dual enrollment opportunities on our campuses next year. And guess what? Not charging us any money. So this is a huge change from 2 years ago when I had to bring forward a request for them. They wanted more money to teach in our class. Now they're saying, no, we don't want more money. We're just gonna bring more classes to your buildings. That's exciting. Title I-D, which is the job I had before this one, so I'm always kind of excited to hear what's happening. They've received some extra state funding and they have some really great plans coming forward. And I've asked Jen Strong and Justin Conroy to come forward in the near future and present those ideas. HR is getting ready for negotiations. I know all of those invitations went out to you. They're on your calendar. March is busy, right? And Mr. Sargent met with his counterpart in Sioux Falls, and they talked through both districts' plans and some different things. I will tell you that after debriefing with Mr. Sargent, we have a lot more on his plate than they have on his counterpart's plate in Sioux Falls. We are getting our money's worth. That's what I took away from that. And after I'm done, we're gonna have a calendar discussion. That's next. I don't know, do you want to stop for questions here, Bishop Carr, and then go on to the calendar discussion?
Anyone have any questions? Mrs. Thomas?
Yeah, thank you. Earlier during the CTE celebration, what was the bill that you said passed in committee for the 1-year certificate for instructors so we can follow that?
I will
Okay.
send that out to you.
Okay,
I sent it to Bobby today or yesterday.
don't remember that.
But I don't
Okay,
remember
that's
that
okay.
number.
Please send that.
I have too many 11 somethings floating around in my head, so.
Any other questions? All right, no ma'am, no question.
Okay, so last year, I really wanted to bring forth 2 years of calendars. That is still my desire. I want 2 years of calendars. One of the things that has caused me to come out tonight with a 2024 calendar that has a couple changes on it is Election Day. So this fall, November 5th of this fall is the presidential election. As many board members are aware, 6 of our schools are voting sites. The last election, major election, I had many calls to the office in the fall about, are we letting all these strangers into our schools? These are elementary buildings. I know we had a conversation about patriotism and teaching about voting rights, but we also have a lot of parents and school members that are scared about all of the people that they don't know and aren't identified coming into the buildings. In 2022, I was able to secure law enforcement to be at all 6 sites, but I've been forewarned by RCPD and by the Pennington County Sheriff's Office that is not something they're going to do for us in November of 2024. So with your approval or not, we can leave the calendar how it was, but if we want to look at something for Election Day, if you look at the calendar that Shirley handed out, I moved the first floating PD day from the November 25th, which was the Monday before Thanksgiving. I moved that to Election Day, November 5th. So teachers could be in the building if they wanted to, but if they earned it off by doing all of their training remotely outside of their duty day, they could have that day off. There's a couple of good things about that. State law does actually require us to allow all of employees time off to vote. And that is very challenging in schools when teachers do not have a lot of time to go stand in line. So that would be an encouraging piece. I think that it would allow parents to take kids with them to vote if they so choose. But I also recognize it is a Tuesday in the middle of the week that we would be moving the day off to. When I moved that floating PD day, I then took the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week and I backed up the end of the school year a day so that we are completely done on this calendar. We're completely done before Memorial Day. Teachers do not have to come back the Tuesday after Memorial Day and put in that half workday to clean out their classrooms. So that is the major changes I made on this. We also did do a shift that doesn't really impact the calendar that much. We moved the end of the semester to before Christmas. This is something staff members have been asking for at the high school level for a very long time. It's hard to have 2 weeks off at Christmas and then come back, have a couple of days, and then take final tests. What this does is it makes first semester a week shorter than second semester. However, second semester does have all the testing in it. So in reality, for all the grades that test, it will make them more even. I'm bringing this forward as a discussion item tonight. And then if you feel like this is a plan we want to go forward with, we'll move it forward for a vote next week. But I'm willing to answer questions on that. The other calendar is the 2-year calendar, which would be the 25-26 calendar. We could also make some changes to this. I'll talk you through what they could be. As this stands, we're back to a full week at Thanksgiving. We could move some of that around. This does get us out of school again, but completely before Memorial Day, which is a positive. We could back off the start of school. We could start a little bit later in August, like 2 days later, and move the end date, or even a day later and move the end date to that Friday before Memorial Day. It does have the same semester schedule. I did not do anything with election day because it's not a national election, so I just left that. You will also notice that on the 25-26 calendar, Veterans Day falls on a Tuesday. In a discussion internally, we kind of made the determination that if Veterans Day falls on a Monday or a Friday, we will recognize it as a day off. But if it falls on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, we will recognize it by internal celebrations. Because otherwise you just have a random day off in the middle of the week. And it's kind of a nice compromise that 2 times, when it falls on a Monday or Friday, we'll recognize it. But on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we will have celebrations inside of our schools for our veterans. So those are the big changes that you would see on the 25-26 calendar.
All right, thank you for that calendar report. Anyone have any questions about the 24, 25, 25, 26 calendar as presented? Oh, Ms. Stephenson.
Thanks. Thanks for all the information. It kind of makes my head spin. The one question I have is, do we have any, what is Matt Sargent's opinion about voting in schools? And has he weighed in on this? I have 2 questions. That's the first.
Okay, so Mr. Sargent and I have talked. There's no way to check everybody who comes into a school to vote. We have discussed virtual days. Here is the deal. 3 of our 4 elementaries that host voting are title schools. Typically that, they qualify through free and reduced lunch. We can make the assumption that some of those houses do not have internet. Virtual learning then becomes a challenge. We have to take attendance and virtually learn online for the state to count it as a present day. So Mr. Sargent is concerned about the student population coming in, or the outside population coming into our schools. Not so much at the 2 middle schools, because the community centers can be completely locked down from our elementary, or from our buildings, our middle school class hallways. Elementaries are a different story, and elementaries are the concern. And the 4 elementaries that host elections are Grandview, Rapid Valley, Valley View, and General Beetle. And 3 of those 4 are title.
Okay. Thank you for that. So if we aren't gonna have school on election day, if it's gonna be a PD day, what about, I think one of the reasons staff really likes the floating PDs is because they're often attached to make a weekend longer. What about making this a non-floating PD day? And making a different PD day floating so that it's attached to a weekend at least? That way there's no interruption to the week.
We could move the October 25th PD day to Tuesday, the 5th, and we could make Thanksgiving a week again, or we could make a 3-day week. That is absolutely something that we could do. This year, teachers are supposed to come back the Tuesday after Memorial Day for a half day, but we are letting them make the choice to stay a half an hour longer the last week of school and complete their work. And if they do that, they don't have to come in that Tuesday. We could do that again with the 24-25 school year. I was just trying to present options, but that's a great one. We could move that PD day from October 25th to Election Day.
It's a thought. Otherwise, I don't envy the job of trying to herd all these cats. So I appreciate the work that you've done and the presentation you gave.
Okay, Mrs. Thomas.
I'm not
will you finish?
really loving is the 23rd of December on the 2024, a
It's
day that they have to come
it's a
in.
floating PD day.
So they could or they couldn't?
Yes.
Okay,
If they
then.
do their work, they don't have to come in that day.
Okay, I'm cool with that. All right, never mind. Secondly, I guess I just want to make a statement. I really like having the 2-year calendar. Whether you have a 1-year, a 2-year, a 5-year, there is going to always be something that comes up every year that you're like, you know what, we have to adjust a little bit. So I appreciate that you did so much work in getting this 2-year one. We all need to understand, especially teachers and parents, there's still going to be some things that end up having to change every year. Part of the reason I like it is because I know of parents that, are separated from, the marriage and whatnot and have kids at certain times and they don't even live here and they need to know when is school starting? When do I have to have my kid back? When can I pick my child up? And they can't know that from the parent that lives here because they don't control the school calendar. So I've heard that a number of times. So I've heard several parents they're very happy that this is 2 years out. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Berkeley.
I had a kind of similar concern about the December 23rd date. I had heard at the citywide PTA, and then I got some emails about it, our other staff having to come in on that 23rd day. So I don't know what we can do for them. I don't know how we can, I don't know if that's something that takes place in negotiations or what, but something there for not so they don't have to take the day off. to
So-
get that full week.
The difference between contracted or salary employees is a day's a day. So they can do extra hours and we don't get in trouble because we didn't pay them. We can give them a flex day. Hourly employees, the way the federal law works is if they work anything overtime during a week, we have to pay them. So our hourly employees, if they want to get paid on a floating PD day, they have to work. There was a floating PD day at Christmas regardless. It was at the end of the Christmas break instead of the beginning of the Christmas break. They would have had to make that choice either way. They can take vacation. I know that many secretaries are concerned. Secretaries do earn vacation with every single pay period. The group I think it impacted the most were paras. And what we have done for next year is we have added 2 para work days to the beginning of the calendar. It will not help their paycheck, but they will still work the same number of days and they won't have to work floating PD days next year.
Okay.
So we have given them the same number of work days, but we have had them come in at the beginning of school to work with teachers, setting up SPED programs and all of that. Actually, which is what they have requested in the past, to come in during those teacher work days. So it's a win-win. We just didn't think ahead enough last year to make that happen, but you live and learn. And so we are able to do that. So the para group, which is the group that I think it impacts the most paycheck to paycheck,
Mhm.
is we're addressing that, and they don't earn vacation. All of the other hourly employees, with the exception of paras who only work the school year, they earn vacation. So they will get the opportunity. Now, they don't want to take it. I understand that.
Yeah. it's
I don't know.
Just the Monday is
Yeah,
so, it's
yeah,
so rough because
yeah.
it breaks up the weekend too and
Yeah.
ruins everything. But I appreciate that we are at least trying something.
Yeah.
That's what I really wanted to bring forth was.
I mean,
some kind of thought
I
about-
mean, we can
about
move
not
that
just our
floating
teachers.
PD day to January 3rd. It doesn't make any difference, but they're gonna have to pick one or the other,
Right.
and they're gonna, it was always going to be at one end of Christmas or the other.
Right. And then just a couple other thoughts. I also appreciate the 2 years. I think that this year was just a hiccup. I think that we are gaining our feet. The school that I
Yeah.
work at does 2 years out and I also appreciate that. I'm wondering if maybe we do note on the 25-26 though somewhere, like a subject to change.
Okay.
Like we think this is gonna be so that if we do end up in this spot, just in that
Yeah.
sort of thing. And then the other thing was, we're talking about the presidential election. We're hopefully talking about a bond election here. And just to maybe keep that in mind, when we're placing that date of like September 6th, October 4th, November 1st, looking at,
Mhm.
like looking at those dates and seeing how can we work with those, because we would run into the same sort of issues there. I'm assuming the places would be similar. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's correct, but just wanted to throw that out there as we're
Mhm.
planning that as well. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much, Superintendent. Very thoughtful, very thorough report. Appreciate all that information. At this time, is somebody standing? Okay, so Mr. Sassy is not here for his report. There are no conflicts of interest. I will entertain a motion for the first reading of the Rapid City Area Schools Policy and Procedures. Okay, discussion. Mrs. Stephenson.
Thank you. Thank you for taking up the AI policy. I am by no means an expert in AI. I did want to share an email I got from someone who is an expert in education, who had some concerns about this policy and asked, I guess you as a policy committee, this was just sent this afternoon, so I have not had a chance, but just to look into some options. I'm just gonna, I think I'm just gonna read what she wrote. She said, I harbor concerns about the present draft owing to its constraining nature and its lack of alignment with the practicalities and possibilities associated with AI. The policy's definition of AI, categorizing AI-generated content as devoid of direct human intervention, overlooks crucial interaction between AI systems and their human users. This interaction involving human-initiated prompts and parameter settings, it is integral to how AI operates. The current policy fails to capture this essence and may inadvertently lead to non-compliance by students, teachers, and leaders, given the pervasive nature of AI and everyday technology. Furthermore, the draft policy, particularly regarding student use, appears misaligned with the evolving job market, where AI is expected to play a transformative role. The policy's restrictive stance on AI could hinder students' ability to adapt and thrive in this changing landscape. Additionally, enforcing such policy may disadvantage vulnerable students, as AI detectors are more likely to be triggered falsely by individuals struggling with language skills. Research indicates that AI has the potential to level the playing field across various domains, reducing performance gaps in complex tasks. Therefore, a more inclusive and forward-thinking policy is warranted. And she urges the board to reconsider the current draft, aiming for a balanced approach that addresses concerns associated with AI while encouraging responsible and constructive engagement among students and staff. So that was sent by an expert in education who asked me to not elaborate, she wanted to remain anonymous, but I will follow up on that. And I just wanted to share it with you on the policy committee because I think it's important information, and maybe we can find other draft. I know this one was the draft that ASBSD had, basically, is that right? With very little change. And I think maybe it's wise to consider other drafts that are available and see if there's one that you know, fits our needs a little bit better. And I welcome feedback from you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Brooklyn.
Thank you. I had similar people reach out to me with similar concerns that also pretty much align with my concerns, which are, as Christine mentioned, that AI detection right now is rough. Figuring out what is actually AI is not really reliable. So that was one of my big concerns with that policy is I don't know, I struggle with it, and I do not envy you trying to write the policy. But I do struggle with that portion of it, that we will misidentify something as AI because we don't have great detectors for AI at this time. Kind of similarly, I feel as a board and as a district, we are not embracing necessarily, I don't know if that's the right word, but we are not shunning AI. And certain parts of this policy do feel a little bit negatively worded towards that. So I guess I would like to see it written, right now I feel like it reads as don't use AI except, whereas I feel like our stance is a little bit more of use it when it's appropriate. Here are some ways that it's not appropriate. Like I kind of would like to see that flipped a little bit more of a positive spin on it. And I guess personally, it reminds me a lot of calculator use back in the day. I say back in the day as if I'm that old, but calculators have come a long way. And our initial response as a math educator was no, we need to be able to add 57,452 plus 87. Now in 2024, like who doesn't have a calculator in their pocket? But our initial response was to shun that. And now we've kind of lacked a little bit because we did that. And I worry that we're going to do the same thing with AI, that we're going to shun it away. And then our students are going to fall behind in the world because we've done so. So I guess to kind of summarize all that, my concern is the false positives on whether it's cheating or not, and putting a more positive spin towards it. And like Christine said, I did some Googling of some other policies and how they worded it. It's tough. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing, but I do think maybe it's worth checking out some other options.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Thomas.
I would agree. A lot of times, I think Associated School Board example policies are fairly written so quickly and kind of with what may be negativity kind of words. And so that could definitely be relooked at. We had the principals and a few other people look at it, but I agree. I would like, for that person not to remain anonymous. I mean, that seems kind of odd in this kind of situation, but if they could reach out to the policy committee and let them know, and maybe we could have that person in to discuss like what this policy played out like, looks like in the classroom. Because while principals are knowledgeable about that, perhaps they don't know exactly what that looks like. And yes, we should be embracing it and showing kids. I think in the policy committee, I even said something to the effect of why not, and maybe it had a little bit to do with the chat GPT too, but it was, we need to be able to teach, we know the kids are going to be using it. Why not teach them how? And like you said, appropriate means for it, but then there was other ways that maybe the teachers could come up with in finding out whether they are actually using it or not by their own means, by their own, I guess, expertise in the classroom, saying, okay, we're going to have you write this. We're going to have you draw this. We're going to do at the beginning of the year. Okay, now what does it look like when you use AI? And what does it look like at the end of the year using both? And then they can monitor their own students and how they do on their own and then how they use the AI. So I would not be opposed to holding off so we could get some people in and maybe just for a second reading change, whatever changes need to be made. Maybe not even having it by the next, because I'm not sure if we even have a policy committee between now and the next official board meeting. So, and if we can even get somebody in, whoever's emailing you. So I wouldn't be opposed to not tabling it. I don't want to table it, but whatever we need to do.
All right. Superintendent Swigert.
Thank you. I would just add that I believe that AI is going to be a policy that's going to come forward every single year. It's going to need adapting and change. I felt like this approach to the policy is we were really trying to say, hey, AI isn't bad. We have these other honesty policies and expectations of students that are in the student handbook. Please be aware of all of that. And so make sure that you are using that lens, that there's other policies that talk about academic integrity and those types of things without, slapping somebody's hand and saying, we're going to give you an F and fail you and you're not going to recover from this, which I don't think is a good way. I'm a huge fan of finding ways to help kids, students today learn how AI can make them better, a better student, teach them some things. I think AI has huge possibilities of teaching kids how to be great editors, how to be great question askers, because it all depends on how you ask the question, what the product you get out of AI is. I can see that we could go back and look at our verbiage. We did go to who we feel are kind of the content experts, which is the principals, but we did not expand it out. And there could be some value in having teachers come from all levels, because I think it's everywhere, right? Come to the table and talk about what, their concerns are. There is no deadline for this. This is certainly something that we could expand on and work a little bit on. However, we were being asked for a policy. So because we were being asked, we started someplace. And I think that's always important. We could, AI could be a policy that's coming to policy committee every couple of months for a while until we fully realize what it means for public education today.
Thank you. Mr. Swan.
Thank you, President Carr. One of the things I would like to talk about a little bit is, in the policy under staff use, it does say, however, over-reliance on AI technology is discouraged, but it gives, I guess, no guidance on how much is over-reliance. And that's kind of a tough thing for me to say, using it for 5 periods or 6 periods a day. Is that over reliance? Is it all week? You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, the other piece is that, we need to allow for some development of AI expertise. If we're gonna be asking people to make a call, then we need to get our administrators changed. We need to get some teachers to kind of say, hey, here's what over reliance means. You know what I mean? Because right now it's so new. And it was so new when we were using computers and again, calculators, it's one of those things is like, how much is overuse? You know what I mean? Because that's the big piece of that I'm seeing right now is that we have no defined definitions in that. And if somebody's gonna say over reliance, well, I don't use it on everyone. I don't use it on my planning period. I just use it for all of my other period. Is that over reliance? So please just some clarification on some of the definition, but I also would ask for some training to be involved, I guess, in this discussion as well. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? All right, I love this because we have a procedural dilemma. Because the motion we made was for A, B, and C, what should have happened is we should have removed C at a separate motion. So here's what you can do. You can, because this is a first reading, you can approve it so that you can approve A and B. And it doesn't have to be brought back for a second reading, right? Or you can amend it now to take out C of the current motion. I think it's cleaner if we just approve it and then propose IIBFA is not brought back for a second reading. So
Until,
if that happens and it is changed, then it would go back to a first reading, right? Because there'll be whatever
Mhm.
change, and then you can have whatever time, because it's not a pressing necessarily policy, you can take all the time that you want to bring it back again. So any comment, do we understand that? Are there any comments about what we should do?
No, I guess just to clarify, so once we approve it, it basically is just the policy committee is aware that we don't want to bring it back. We don't have to make
Correct.
another action to not bring it back. We're just saying we're approving it and then we're gonna. put it back
Correct.
on there. Okay.
Yeah, because it
Yep.
needs two readings, so
Yeah.
obviously
Don't bring it.
we've already said that we wouldn't vote on it if it does come back in its current form. So policy committee knows that it won't come back.
Okay.
All right. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the RCAS policies and procedures signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, very well. Item 13, I will entertain a motion for the approval of proposed agreements. Okay, let me stop.
Yep.
All right. Learned a lesson that I didn't follow. So does anybody want to pull an item from agenda item 13?
Yes, please.
Okay, which one?
Charlie, please.
Charlie. All right, any other board member? Mr. Swan,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mrs. Thomas,
Bravo, please.
I didn't raise my hand because I thought maybe we were getting covered.
all right, any, Mr. Berglund?
I Delta, is that?
Yeah.
I didn't study before this one.
That's okay. All right, any other board member? So we are at this time pulling Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. I will entertain a motion to approve agenda item 13 outside of Bravo, Charlie, and Delta.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all in favor signify.
Wait, discussion. Don't we have discussion on that?
Not. No, she's right.
Yeah, we didn't, we
Okay.
can discuss.
We're discussing Alpha and Echo. Right, any discussion on Alpha and Echo? Okay, Ms. Stephenson.
I just really appreciate and wanted to note the opportunity that that future leaders, future current leaders of our district are gonna have with this USD master cohort. And I really appreciate that it's been brought to us. I appreciate that you're working with USD to give our staff this opportunity to grow future leaders. So thank you.
Right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor of approving agenda item 13, Alpha and Echo signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. I will entertain a motion for agenda item 13, Bravo.
Second.
Discussion. I don't know who pulled that, okay. Ms. Thomas.
I pulled it, so I guess I'll discuss it. This generally is basically an MOU to modify the negotiated agreement, the contract that we have already made. We have done this once already, earlier in the year for the drama. And my concern is that this is now setting a precedent that we're doing this, and negotiations is where this should and it take place to keep the negotiations fair and of good faith. So I'm having a push and pull with this one on yes or no. I really am. And I would like further opinion on it. I don't want to get into doing this because then the next group will say, well, you did it for two different groups now. So now I want it. Although I am not opposed to what is being proposed here. I just would like it to take place in negotiations.
Superintendent Swager.
Thank you, Bishop Carr. This is interesting for me because as the superintendent, I don't participate in negotiations. I sit on the outside so that if anything needs brought to me, that I can weigh in at that point. However, I will say a couple of things. Last year in negotiations, we made a direct effort, knowing that we would have MOUs coming forward, to limit the number of items groups could bring forward. So if we had an unlimited number of items that could be brought forward or a higher number, I think I'd feel differently about this, but we limited the number. And we said that we were going to have PLMC discussions where if agreements were made, we would bring them forward as MOUs. It just so happens that both of the situations that have come forward, one I brought forward because of the events of what was happening at Stevens High School, and I felt the need, so I brought the first one forward. This one is coming forward because my understanding is it just got missed in the note taking and the carry through of those notes in the final agreement of the negotiations, the certification piece. So I want to say that, we have limited the groups this year to one, they can bring forth one item that represents everybody in a group. So in this case, this negotiated group would have to forego every other topic of discussion and only focus on this one item that affects 22 members. And my understanding is the crux of this was the notes were not reflected correctly. So I just want to point out those couple things. That's one of the reasons we're probably going to see more of these come through the PLMC work that is being done, so that we hopefully will have faster negotiations, because we're going to deal with some small issues as they come up, instead of taking up a whole bunch of everybody's time to deal with something that is a smaller portion of the group. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Clapham.
Yeah, I feel the push and pull as well. Yeah, I'm really struggling with it. I appreciate Superintendent Sawyer's point that because we have now, it's sort of a new concept last year to limit the topic, like that's new. So it does seem a little unfair to say we just started this practice and now something that was actually meant to be brought last year is the only thing you can discuss. I guess my one procedural question is like, so this actually is an MOU to this year's contract. And then when we're in negotiations a month from now, this would already exist in that contract. So yeah, I feel the push and pull, but I do feel like it would be very limiting for 22 people in a group to hold the rest of the group over a barrel for this one thing that seems a little problematic too. Although I completely understand the not wanting to make MOUs. I understand that argument too.
All right. Mrs. Thomas.
Okay, it's my understanding that with the IBB process, when we have our first meeting, both quote unquote sides, and yet we are all a team to bring. Thank you. It's my understanding that in the IBB process, which we use, we aren't sides, we are a team, but everyone within that group that's at that meeting can bring forth, even if it's for one person, a change. So I don't think it's limited at all. It's through that process that we start saying, what is the most important? What's our priorities? What are we willing to leave on the table? And we all get to go around and say, "No, I'm not comfortable." If there's one person saying, I don't want that taken off, we get to discuss it until it's remedied. That is a really good thing about the IBB process. So it's not that this can't come back at all. It definitely can be discussed and should be discussed. It is also something I was not aware of when we ended negotiations, that the PLMCs would, I knew that they would continue throughout the year, and there was some seriously good faith in starting to pencil in the appointments to do that, those committees, and talk to each group. But I wasn't aware that through those discussions throughout the year until the next negotiations, that they would be bringing MOUs. I just thought that they were going to hash out some language, hash out those things like this to bring back to the next negotiations with language and ready to go, instead of having those negotiation weeks carry on with those discussions. Those were supposed to be taken through the year. So if that was in the notes or not in the notes, I guess I left negotiations not understanding that they would be bringing MOUs. That's why I'm surprised about this too, so.
Ms.
Uh,
Clapham?
I just had a thought, and I know we have to be very careful about, like, talking about future negotiations, it's a little tricky. And I guess maybe I just want to put out a food for thought. But that's saying going into negotiations, like, we obviously know that this is an interest and there are ways to compensate for something retroactively, I guess, is what I'd say. Like, you could make considerations knowing something was proposed now to say, we couldn't put something in a contract last year. So just a thought that could be some sort of middle ground.
Right, Superintendent Swigert.
When you talk about opening a can of worms, like that would terrify me. Just because I think you could then get faced with leapfrogging, back pay. I mean, a frozen year, well, we're gonna unfreeze, so everybody, that terrifies me. I would caution not caution, that's not the right word. I would tell the board that by the time we bring something like this forward, everybody internally in the district has agreed. Okay, so RCEA has agreed, HR has agreed, I have agreed, Coy has agreed, Kelsey has agreed. All of the district players have agreed. So we're bringing this forward to you. We feel like we've done all the back work. We've had all the really hard conversations about where this broke down, where it didn't happen. I would ask that you put your faith in the people that you have employed to do that work and bring it forward to you ready to go.
Right, Mr. Swan.
Thank you for that, Superintendent Swigert. Those are great words. I think that we do have to have a little faith in our administration when they bring this forward and doing all of the back work, because we do get to see the final result of what they're asking from us. Just a question, and I know this is one of those things where I don't want to open up another can of worms, but I would like to ask, I would like to make the comment, I guess, that this does put people on a higher standard. You know what I mean? It raises the bar for that profession. You know what I mean? It's one of those things, it's like getting a national board certified. You know what I mean? We get to hang our hat on something that makes our district a little better. And that's, I think as long as it's benefiting our students and as long as we're getting the best care for our students that need that service, then I think we're in a pretty good boat with this. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor of approving item 13B signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I'll entertain a motion for 13 Charlie.
So moved.
Discussion.
So my just main question, we looked at a contract previously that as a board, we weren't super comfortable with. And one of the clarifications I still don't understand, I know, Mr. Manuel's on and I believe is that like how, two questions, I guess, actually, I'll ask them both at the same time. One is how is this actually, like, how is Teach Quest paid is my first question. And then my second question is with those who have been hired in the state of South Dakota, has there been difficulty with like driver's licensing and transportation? Because those were two big barriers that were brought up in previous contracts that were concerned. So those were my questions. Like I said, perhaps Mr. Manuel or the representative could answer.
Mr. Manuel, can you address those questions?
Yes, and we do have with us, Mr. Roy from Teach Quest that, I would invite him obviously to answer as well, but, to answer your questions, Ms. Clapham, the first one being, how does Teach Quest get paid? It's my understanding, and again, Mr. Roy, please step in. The district does not have a financial obligation or requirement at all to pay Teach Quest. The fees that are charged are paid by the individuals who are coming here to teach. There is, again, no financial outlay on the district's part to pay any of those fees. I'll stop there and ask Mr. Roy if he would like to add to that so that there is a clear understanding or if there needs to be more explanation of how that process works.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this meeting. Yes, Mr. Manuel said it clearly, correctly. Teach Quest will not require the district to pay any amount because this program from the U.S. Department of State, this is a cultural exchange program. This is not really a employment program. This is a cultural exchange where teachers from outside the country or outside the U.S. wants to participate in this program so that they will learn something from the system here in the U.S. But they will be, of course, compensated like the local teachers. And that is the program of the U.S. Department of State, and they call that the J-1 visa program for teachers. So this is a cultural exchange program. They will be coming here with culture that they will share and culture that they will learn from your district. So the Rapid City School District will not pay any amount to us, Teach Quest, because the participants, it's just like they are the ones who are really interested in joining this or participating in this program. So they pay all the expenses coming here to the US. And then the second one is, I believe, if I heard it clearly, about the licensing, teacher's license, driver's license. I already have, I think, as of this date, I already have, I think, 100 teachers placed in different school districts in South Dakota from west to east. We have, in the first 6 months, of course, they will do the public transportation, or we will arrange carpool for them because they're still, of course, learning the system in the US. But after 6 months, they will get their own driver's license, and they can they can get their own transportation. So that's what we do in other school districts that we arrange carpool or maybe with the help of the principals, they can also arrange carpool with the local teachers for these international teachers for at least maybe 3 to 6 months, and then after that they can get their own license and they can get their own transportation.
Thanks. Ms. Clapham, did that answer your
Those are
question?
very thorough and satisfactory answers to my
right.
questions. Yes,
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate that. Superintendent Swager.
Thank you, Bishop Carr. I do want to say that unlike the program that was brought forward in the summer, we have actually interviewed various school districts in South Dakota that are using Teach Quest. Every district that we have spoken to has spoken very highly about the educators that are coming to their school districts from Teach Quest. They also have spoken very highly about how Teach Quest works with the teachers they bring to get certified, go through the licensing process in South Dakota. And let me tell you that this year, that has been a challenge for South Dakotans to get licensed. So to hear that Teach Quest has been with these employees the whole way and understand how to navigate our teachers' license process with the state of South Dakota, and to hear so highly about these teachers from other superintendents speaks, I think, volumes to this program.
Mrs. Stephenson.
I think, Mr. Tipkos, you answered my question mostly. So do you provide support throughout the year for these teachers in the event that they struggle with one thing or another? Or is that once they're here, it's, are they kind of on their own? Like in terms of finding housing?
So to answer that question, we coordinate with, of course, the locals in every cities to help us in finding housing or apartments for the teachers. But we are the ones who will negotiate with the management of the apartments or the owner of the house and the terms, how they're going to pay that one. And of course, we support them for 5 years. 5 years that we support them in all their needs, like even orientation, even training of basic school, procedures here in the US, classroom management, and other stuff that they need to know how to teach here in the US. We support them, and we're open, of course. I cannot say literally 24 hours a day, but every time they ask us, we support them, we answer them, and then we give them advice.
Thanks. I studied abroad and for a year, and everything was hard. Everything, the post office, the grocery store, the bank, everything was hard. So I actually just, I like this idea, and I'd love it if our district could find a way to like just embrace all the good that comes from this. Like if we could have cultural nights, or even if we could set out a call for like host families, not to live, like when I studied abroad, I didn't have a host family that I lived with, but I had a host family that had me for dinner and helped me when I had questions. I think that would be wonderful. I'd love to do that. So I hope we can have some opportunities for cultural exchange in addition to having our classrooms with teachers.
All right.
Can I add and answer that one too? Actually, they are required to do a cultural exchange program 2 times a year. So that is one of the requirements of the program. So they will really showcase the culture to the local community, to the teachers, students, parents. So yeah, you will expect that one.
All right, thank you. All right, Superintendent, is that your hand up, still up? Okay, all right, any other discussions on Teach Quest? All in favor of accepting item 13, Charlie, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, Delta, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
That was me. First off, thank you for having this. Is this instead of the ICLE? Is this instead of ICLE?
Yes.
Okay, kind of related to that question, did we look at other agencies or did we just kind of go with Huron-Suitor just because the other stuff we're doing with them?
Yes, we took I would say a very comprehensive approach. I worked with 4 principals, TLI and federal programs, the directors there. And we walked through different options for leadership development in our district. And of course, that focuses on principals, but I know that's not the end all be all. Our contract with ICLE is over, and we'll have our last work with them here shortly as a closure piece, and then we'll walk into the student contract that was kind of came to the forefront. I think some things such as the alignment piece with our pillars and bringing that to the role of our principals and building leadership was very essential in going with Studer. I really like their LDIs, leadership development. I'm not sure, I can't remember what the I is. But they come on site, and I think that face-to-face is super important. And the interactions that I've had in a short amount of time have been very, I think, valuable to build leadership skills. So that was another big part of moving this way. A lot of the work that we've done and that I continue to do with principles such as the rounding process and so forth is all kind of flowing from Huron-Suitor and the work we're doing with them. So to me, it's a natural piece, and the team was on board with that. So.
Perfect, thank
Yeah.
you. And I agree that there is value in having that connection. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't just do it, just like, hey, we also have this leadership thing. And we're like, okay, I didn't think that was what happened, but to put that out there for everybody that we did indeed look at other things and decided that this was the best option.
And this is one piece. There's more that we're working on to develop the whole of leadership in our district. You saw the piece with USD earlier, but there is more to come over time.
Perfect, thank you.
Right, Mr. Swan.
Just a question under number 10, general in D. Disagreement will be governed and construed in accordance with the laws of the state of Illinois. Parties here to agree that any and all disputes and claims shall be settled by binding arbitration in accordance with commercial arbitration rules, American Arbitration Association. It appears that it will be conducted, any arbitration will be conducted in Chicago. Are we okay with that? The question.
I don't know if that is their home base for this program, so it may be based out of that. Let me double check. It may be well, thank you for being so thorough. It may be a typo. So I guess due to that, I would probably, Kelsey wouldn't know. Came to us from Studer, so I need to ask Studer. We'll need to ask Huron-Suitor. Unless,
I just don't want to put us
Yeah.
at a disadvantage,
Yeah.
if something were to happen and all of a sudden we gotta fly, Dr. Strausser out to Chicago, and they just don't know, you know what I mean? So I would just,
Yeah.
that would just be a question that I would ask, for the district. Thank you.
And even with that, I wouldn't think that would be enough for us to not approve this, because we
Yeah.
haven't technically signed it, right? We're just
Correct.
agreeing to, so
Yeah.
that can
Yeah.
be, Kelsey can have time to work that location detail out.
Kelsey, are you aware? Did you catch that? Or do you know anything about that?
I couldn't
Unfortunately, I couldn't hear Mr. Swan. I don't think his microphone was on, so I didn't hear exactly what was said, so I apologize.
He says that 10D says that all arbitration will take place in Illinois.
And the rules that we're gonna be following are gonna be, according to the state of Illinois.
Yeah, and that's always a challenging clause in most contracts, especially larger companies. They're gonna be insistent that their jurisdiction choice is in a forum that's close to them because they want things to be most convenient for them. Some people are willing to modify that and say we'll apply South Dakota law or we'll allow the circuit court in Pennington County to have jurisdiction in the event there's an issue, but I would guesstimate that they would probably be pretty adamant that they would request that change, but I can certainly ask them if they'd be willing to make that modification.
Mr. Swan.
Yeah, I just didn't want to put the district at a disadvantage, you know, in a negotiation if something were to come up. I just would rather be here in South Dakota or following South Dakota law, in this regard. Thank you.
Mr. Berkman.
I just wanted to add, kind of similar to what Kelsey said, I think that is pretty standard when you're working out of state. All of my contract stuff for Arizona that I work with says that I gotta go to Arizona if I want to fight them. So, as terrifying as it may be, I think it is fairly common.
Thank you. Mrs. Clapham.
Really quick, I don't know as much about contract laws, probably a lot of other people do. I appreciate Mr. Swan's thoroughness. And I would say, for me, I guess the thought is if we can go back and ask the question and allow the option to say yes or no, and they may absolutely say no. I don't think that's gonna take an extended period of time. So I feel like this could come back in 2 weeks with that question answered. I personally would probably feel more comfortable with that. I don't think it's gonna draw something out excessively long, and this is talking about, so we have to finish the ICLE contract before this would start anyway. So that would be my thoughts, that to have the question answered, so even if they do say no, they say no, and then we are voting based on that information, but I think it's worth the ask.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Berkeley.
I remember reading it, but I can't find it. But there is actually an end date on this contract somewhere, or maybe that was a different one. I think it was this one. So I think putting it off would require a whole new contract then, and I don't know what that was. That might have been one of the different ones. But if anyone else read that, I did.
Admin, do you know if the contract has a expiration date?
Oh, I just found it actually.
They would like paid by February 29th because they'd like to start March 1st. We do have another board meeting before then, so we can definitely bring that back. I also think there is a yearly escape clause in it, so this has the ability to go multiple years, but it also gives us a get out of the contract option that we have with their other contract. I'd be interested, Walt wasn't on the board then, I'm gonna go back and look at the original Studer contract. I'm guessing it says Illinois, and we have not had any issue to go to Illinois. Our work with them has been extremely well done, and and I would echo what Dr. Strasser said. This team of principals interviewed multiple options. They did a lot of homework. It was and I stayed out of it because I didn't want to influence them by, I'm working with Studer, so you have to work with Studer too. That wasn't it. And after they did all of their interviewing and homework and lots of discussions, they came to this conclusion, so. Volunteer.
Ms. Baker. Oh, excuse me, were you done, Mr.
I
Berkeley?
did find where it says it. It's at the bottom of page 3. It does say by February 15th, 2024. The expiration of terms in our proposals, when not executed during the anticipated time frame, allows us to keep dates and timelines in our proposals current and to ensure we're able to provide the best possible service to our current clients and to others whom we may opt to extend an offer. So I'm not saying that necessarily has to be a reason to do it or not do it. I'm just letting everyone know that it does say in there that by February 15th is when this contract is due.
All right. Ms. Baker.
I agree with Michael. Every contract that I've ever had with an out-of-state firm usually has their home state. I don't think it's a big deal. Honestly, I don't. So worst case, we have to send him to Chicago and I want to go with it. I don't know. I don't think it'd be, I don't think it's gonna be something that should stop us from signing with these guys.
Right, Ms. Stephenson.
I agree. I tend to think it's not a deal breaker. And Kelsey reviewed it and didn't see any flags, and I want to move forward with it.
Ms. Thomas.
I can't find where you read that. I'm scanning it though very fast. I think, does it mean that they have to, because they're out of there, they have to go follow the rules of Illinois, of the state laws, because that's where the company is from?
It's page 9.
Oh, gosh, okay. Oh, okay, yep, did not see that. Okay, thank you. And I'm assuming that what it means is that they have to follow the laws where their business is. And that would be something they probably can't take out. I don't know.
I was just asking the question.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
okay.
I'm here, I get it. I do tons of work out of state, you know what I mean? And any arbitration is done in their state, but I was just trying to look out for the district's interest and saying, I really don't want to send Dr. Strasser there because again, they just don't know.
All right, Mr. Strasser, Dr. Strasser.
I appreciate that because I really don't care to go to Chicago for things like that. But just on the timing, so the urgency of this, we wanted to start March 1, so we could start planning and setting up our calendar and our meetings. Our contract with ICLE was finished or concluded at the end of December. So that is done, but we needed a closure piece as part of that contract, and that's what we're wrapping up here hopefully in the next month. And so that's the impetus on the timing.
All right, any other discussions? Right, all in favor of accepting Principal Leadership Development Agreement signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, any items in agenda item 14 members want pulled? All right, seeing no hands, seeing no indications of anything being pulled, praise God. Sweet baby Jesus. All right. And I need a second. I'll entertain a motion for item number 14. I have a motion and now I need a second. All right, all in favor of accepting the proposed consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, item 15, items for board information. Any board committee reports? I did, oh, did, were you, no, you out. I was late, so you was, you're more able than I am.
So yeah, just a report on the community forums regarding the achievement gap. And Bishop Carr gave me the opportunity to exercise
Did
my
a wonderful
leadership skills
job.
a little more. But that we had both the Zoom and the in-person, and I really think they went really well. We had a lot of feedback, a lot of discussion. We had students that were there, we had young people. It was really good. And I think even, even the media coverage, it was positive about, we're talking about hard things. And I felt like the community felt heard. I felt that they felt welcome. There wasn't a sense of like tension in the room. It was a very comfortable and very safe space. And we did my mantra is if we leave with one thing that we learned, even if it's only one that we can act on. And the idea, don't know why it didn't bonk us in a long time ago, but to have a student community conversation and that students can bring really great ideas. And sometimes they don't have the tools to make them come to fruition, but that we need to hear those voices. And so as a committee, we're going to discuss that and really make that happen. So I think it was a really good, both the Zoom and in person went really well. And I'm really looking forward to setting up and scheduling a student one.
Mrs. Stephenson.
Thank you. I just wanted to let everybody know that the PAC met on January 17th and got a presentation on the state report card from Dr. Seals, a presentation from the Seventh Circuit CASA program, which was great, and they need volunteers. And if anybody wants to learn more, I highly recommend reaching out to that program. And things I wanted to share with the board is that they obviously are doing a senior honoring ceremony this year, and said they're looking for volunteers. That'll be May 22nd. And I think it typically starts around 4, but there's a ceremony, there's a dinner. And so if you wanted to block that off as something that you could help out at, they would take your name. There's also gonna be an honoring the children Wachipi. And it's May 23rd, and it's honoring 5th and 8th graders who are, there is not really a 5th grade graduation or an 8th grade graduation. So it's a way to honor that accomplishment. And so that will be May 23rd. And that's about it. They're gonna, they have elections by on April 17th, and they're gonna have 3 voting sites to try and get more people involved, voting and paying attention. And the next meeting will be February 21st at Stevens.
All right, thank you. Ms. Thomas.
It's kind of hard to report on policy committees since policies come before you anyway and kind of have that discussion. So I will not discuss that one, except to say that in facilities, we are still going through and touring school. That's really nice to do that. I've been in the buildings before, just not in the way that this is done. And so I appreciate the principals that take the time to show us, the problems that they see, the educational problems they see in the classrooms, not just the structural. And I know Jade Clement is our facilities manager, and he is a humble man, but he has done a really good job in putting together for the facilities committee, and he'll be bringing that same sort of report to us, and he is diligently working to help us with that bond plan. So that's pretty much all, and we'll have that study session this next week. So that's it.
All right, any other committee reports? All right, moving on to others. Any others? Ms. Clapham.
I saved all my stuff for the end of the meeting. I was quiet at the beginning. Just a couple things. A big thing, the whole process of Canyon Lake and the Canyon Lake closure was a large part of discussion and some dissension and some really hard things for the board. And I think I personally grew a lot personally as a leader through that process. I went to visit with the principal at Canyon Lake, and I just wanted to emphasize just the humanity and sensitivity that she is working through that process with her staff. You could really feel how personal it is for her and how much she wants to make this transition smooth for those students. And I wanted to, in that process, shout out Dr. Strasser. He too has really walked alongside them and gone personally to talk to every staff. And, he doesn't have to do that, but because he's good at what he does, he is doing that. And that is really appreciated. And they do feel that. And so just wanted to give credit where credit was due there. And I wanted to also give a shout out to Mr. Burke. And we all serve here, but many of us serve in other areas of the community. I know he played a huge part in the Fashionable event, and I think that's wonderful. I know he put a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it was tiring, but I heard only wonderful things, and just applauding people. People serve so much, and appreciative of you for that service.
Right. Mr. Berkeley.
Thank you. I don't deserve any recognition. Sean did most of it, but I appreciate it anyway. I know Superintendent Swigert already mentioned it, but I also wanted to mention the 100-year project. I'm very excited for it, and Sarah's obviously been working on it, been here telling us about it, but all of those projects, I did want to reiterate, are created by the staff and the students of those schools. So kind of like Superintendent Swigert mentioned earlier, how we need to go and tell Rapid City's story. This is a really great opportunity for them to tell their school's special story, all the good, the bad, and the ugly. I know there's some that talk about their needs and some that talk about the things that are going really well, and all of those things are are super important to hear. So I just wanted to reiterate that is happening on Saturday from 9 to 2, but you can come and go whenever. Come see the ones you want to see and pop back out. It is going to be a jam-packed day. I'm going to hopefully try to be there the whole time. But I just wanted to reiterate that because I think that is a really big, important event. Once again, with facilities discussions coming up, with bond discussions coming up, I think it'll be a really great way for us and our community to learn about those things from the students. So great to see the little kids out there in their videos. Elementary ones are my favorite films. But anyway, that's all I had. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Stephenson.
Well, I didn't know that Jamie was gonna give a shout out to Dr. Strasser, but I just wanted to say that I've been visiting quite a few, mostly elementary schools, and on several occasions, your name has come up. I did not ask about for the dish on you, but on several occasions, people just said they really appreciate the work you're doing and that it's helped them do their job better. And that was just wonderful to hear. They said that they've been given the opportunity to learn from each other a little bit more than they have in recent years. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you and wanted to share that because it doesn't do any good if it just stays with me. On the flip side, I've really been struck by how challenging behaviors are and that problem hasn't gone away. And I'd love updates on what the district is doing and how we're gonna move forward next year with plans for behaviors at all levels. So I know you're planning to brief us on the 9th grade academy and I look forward to that. But appreciate the work you're doing and ask you to keep your eye on behaviors.
Hey, Mrs. Thomas.
To that, I guess part of the bigger picture, facilities is just like, here you go, facilities. Part of that is looking at every single school and where those behaviors and talking to those principals about it. And with several different administration talking together, part of the plan going forward for facilities is coming up with a consistency, talking with Todd Christensen and Dr. Comer to find some consistent what is the needs. Every building's a little bit different and every year's a little bit different, but especially with those behaviors in the sped ed, all of those things, the need to have those spaces, those quiet times where people can students calm down, etc. But what that looks like in each room somewhat has to be consistent because of laws, but they're coming up with a plan for that too. So they are working on that.
All right. Any others? Dr. Strasser. That's all right.
Keep my hand up. And I will say, even before this today, our K-12 behavior team was working on some things, bringing in a huge focus on the high schools because we haven't really had a clear formulated path forward to really bring support there. But they're working on a behavior refresh, which is just a good way. It's a conference that we're hosting at the end of July. We did it last year. I was really impressed with it, and I think it's a small piece to build capacity in our staff. So I'm excited about the work they're doing. So what we are, in addition to programming, looking at a lot of training opportunities and bringing some coordination and teams together to work together on how we best get better at working through behaviors.
All right. Anybody else? All right, thank you, everyone. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session SDCL 1-25-2.3.
So moved.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We will not be making any decisions at this executive session. We'll take a 3-minute break and then head into session. Thank you, everyone.